What may initially seem to some Smash Bros. Fans as just another Echo character being included into the game to pad out its roster, Dark Samus means a lot more than that. She's one of the main villains from the Metroid Prime series, and Metroid Prime 4 is probably going to be coming out next year. There is a real significance behind her inclusion that I think goes overlooked by most fans. This is in combination with Ridley's inclusion. Two of the main antagonists from the Metroid series are now in the biggest fighting game franchise that Nintendo has to offer. And that is huge. But what exactly does this really mean for Nintendo? What is the underlying significance? Well, I'm going to talk about that today. This isn't Dark Samus' first time appearing in a Super Smash Bros. Game. As many fans are well aware of, she was an assist trophy in Smash 4. So many fans are accustomed to seeing her in the game. And after the release of Smash 4, many Metroid fans were clamoring for a new, real game to be released in the series. And we finally got that in 2017 with Samus Returns, which showed that Nintendo is all about right now making a Metroid game for Metroid fans and giving it a chance. It seemed like they were definitely not promoting the series as much, considering that Samus and Zero Suit Samus were the only Metroid characters included in Super Smash Bros., and being that Smash is one of the main promotional tools that is used to thrust some hype into various different franchises, which I'll give some examples for in a little bit, this really showed that Metroid wasn't getting as much promotion as it could have. So in the period of time where there was no real Metroid game released, many fans were hoping that characters from the series would be included in Smash as an outlet for additional popularity, so that more fans would be able to come and request to Nintendo that they want a new main Metroid game to be released. And believe it or not, Dark Samus was one of the main characters that was requested because many fans had already come to the assumption that Ridley could not be included in Smash Bros. Because he was considered too big by Sakurai and therefore had absolutely no chance. The character was already acknowledged, and since they were acknowledged saying that they weren't going to be in the game, well, you can't really hope for them to be in the game after that. And many fans figured that it would be easier to include Dark Samus as opposed to any other character from the Metroid series, because they could just make her a clone like they did for Lucina, Dark Pit, and Dr. Mario. It seemed very simple, but even after Smash 4 released, and with all of the ballot characters and the DLC coming out, that didn't happen. Well, then maybe Nintendo figured that they couldn't market a clone character to be sold and purchased as DLC. But now we enter Smash Ultimate. After knowing the news that Samus Return has come out and has been well appreciated and beloved by critics and Metroid fans alike, and that Metroid Prime 4 is to be coming out in the future. I'm going to talk more about Metroid Prime 4 in a little bit, but at least just keep in the back of your mind right now that a new Metroid game is coming, and that still leaves those same fans coming back to hope for more representation from their favorite series in their favorite fighting game. At E3, it came as a huge shock to everyone that Ridley was included, and he hit the big time by being included in Super Smash Bros. This defied all logic, and still now I find it very hard to believe it, but it's actually happening. Ridley had a real significance to his inclusion by putting that spark back in there, by igniting the flame, saying that, yeah, anybody who you thought was ruled out for Smash could now be implemented, and it also showed that they were giving further promotion to the Metroid series as a whole. But Dark Samus is slightly different. Dark Samus shows further promotion for the Metroid Prime series, considering that Dark Samus has not appeared in any Metroid game other than Metroid Prime. She made her first appearance in the secret ending of the original Metroid Prime, and then became the final boss, spoiler alert, in Metroid Prime 2, and then was the main antagonist in Metroid Prime 3. So she does have a role in the three main Metroid Prime games that have been released so far. And since we have the news of Metroid Prime 4 coming out, one can only assume that Dark Samus is going to be included in a major role in that game, and since Dark Samus is in Smash, it only leaves further carryover to promote that game. The first example that I want to use to show how Smash Bros. Is a great promotional tool is with Xenoblade Chronicles. With the first release of Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, it didn't really get much traction. Many hardcore gamers that picked up the game without much promotion of it, and knowing that it's just a new franchise and a new IP, they found great enjoyment in it, and there was a community created around Xenoblade Chronicles, but there wasn't too much promotion for it. Then, in Smash 4, when Shulk got revealed, and everybody was wondering if he was a Final Fantasy character, no, he was from a franchise named Xenoblade. Then, a year after Smash 4 released, we got Xenoblade Chronicles X, and that gained a little bit more traction considering that fans were introduced to the Xenoblade series through Smash Bros. And now look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was considered one of Nintendo's main releases in 2017. Nintendo was sort of relying on it for one of its big hitters. You had Mario Odyssey and some Pokemon games on the 3DS, but in December, it was all about Xenoblade. And while I definitely don't expect too many new characters to be included in Smash Bros. From now on, I would still think that Rex or Pyra or both could still be included for more representation from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I would definitely think that a new Xenoblade game is right around the corner. And this was probably completely done by Smash, getting that mainstream acknowledgement of the series and that knowledge that Xenoblade was actually a thing, and it wasn't just one of those under-the-radar things. Like, I'm going to give an example. Chibi Robo, I would say, is one of those series, and look where that happened to be now. Metroid, historically, at least for the Prime series, hasn't sold the greatest, and that was sort of what brought the fall of Metroid upon us. But because of the uproar from the fans and how there were pleas from them, really just requesting for a new main game in the series, Nintendo is giving it another chance. And I think they're going to go all out with the promotion of Metroid Prime 4 as one of their main big hitters next year. Obviously, you have Pokemon 2019, the Generation 8 game releasing next year, and that's probably going to be the big game for the holiday. And there's obviously still many things in the holiday season of next year that we don't know about yet, but so far it's Pokemon 2019, which is probably going to be the big thing, and then Metroid Prime 4. I would assume Metroid Prime 4 to release very late, probably in that same December spot that we saw Xenoblade Chronicles 2 appear in, and since Smash Ultimate is getting a December release date, Nintendo's not above releasing some of their biggest games in December, because in recent history we haven't seen that too much. Most of the main game releases were left for that November spot. And while I see Pokemon taking the November spot next year, Metroid Prime 4 I think will either take October or, what I find more likely, December. And if Nintendo really doesn't have any other big titles for holiday of next year, they're going to have to rely a lot on Metroid Prime 4 to carry some of the additional sales that Pokemon won't provide. Pokemon is not for everybody, but Nintendo is going to try to reintroduce Metroid Prime 4 to the Nintendo fans who many of which haven't experienced a Metroid game before, and they're going to hope that it'll take off and establish a bigger fan base than it has gotten in the past. Historically, Metroid games haven't sold the greatest. They haven't had the biggest audience, they've had that cult following, and most Nintendo fans, who some of which haven't even played a Metroid game before, still acknowledge it as one of Nintendo's franchises, obviously. Samus has been one of the biggest Nintendo icons for a long time, but that's probably what most non-Metroid fans know about the series. Samus, a little bit of Ridley because of the hype, and that's about it. But if Nintendo really does a good job at promoting the hell out of Metroid Prime 4, then it could get some huge sales, maybe bring it up to the level of a Zelda, maybe, one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, and then Nintendo has got another big player that they could use for the future. That has certainly got to be the hope for the release of Metroid Prime 4, right? And with all of this discussion about how the success of Metroid Prime 4 really matters, and if it fails, we probably won't be getting another Metroid Prime game in the future, then there's a lot of weight resting on this game's shoulders, and it has to be successful. But how do you help the game be successful? Promote it in the same way that you promoted Xenoblade Chronicles through Super Smash Bros. Ridley, I think, would have been enough to do the promotion, but Dark Samus being a Metroid Prime exclusive character helps it so much more. Even in the trophy description of the character or something like that, something that the fans of Smash Bros. Are going to read, maybe in the story mode. I talked about that in a previous video, you can check it out after. Just put some text about how she's from the Metroid Prime universe, and how she battles with Samus and all that good stuff, and allow some of the fans to gain knowledge about Metroid Prime, and maybe they'll go and purchase the game next year. I have no doubt that Pokemon 2019 is going to sell well. The Let's Go games are a bit of a mixed bag. They don't really appeal to most of the hardcore Pokemon fans out there because they lack many of the features that fans desire in a Pokemon game, but they also sort of approach the casual fans a little bit more. So if those games sell decently, I'm sure that the Pokemon 2019 is going to sell fantastic, and while that may be enough to carry the end of 2019, they're certainly going to need some revenue from fans who like those adventure style games that the Metroid Prime games could provide, and most of the fans who really aren't into Pokemon too much could jump on board of Metroid, and that will be their holiday game purchase for next year. Nintendo's 2018 I don't think has been the greatest at all. It's very back heavy, and there hasn't been too much throughout the rest of the year. They had such a weak start to 2018 that it's very hard to get back to where you'd like to be. But the end of Nintendo's 2018 I think could be a real success, because Smash Brothers is going to sell no matter what. But in 2019, I think if they have a steady flow of games throughout the entire year, and if Metroid Prime 4 sells very well the way that it should, they'll have a much better 2019 than 2018. But if Metroid Prime 4 fails, and Pokemon 2019 doesn't get the sales that they're hoping for, Nintendo could be in a very bad situation. It's all about the success of those two games, at least until something else gets revealed. And Smash Brothers, Dark Samus, and Ridley being included in that game could really help the promotion and the release of Metroid Prime 4. If you're interested in what the Spirits mode that was on the menu of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate could be, click the link on the left side of the screen. And if you want to know the real significance behind Cloud and Richter's inclusion in Smash Bros. Ultimate, click the link on the right side of the screen. Remember to subscribe for more Smash Ultimate videos and other Nintendo content coming very soon. And thank you so much for watching.